That guy was insane. He was awesome.
He's perfect.
Hey, welcome, welcome to the Shut Up and Ride podcast, where we, yes, me, you, all of you out there, interview mountain bikers, free riders, and generally cool people. Here I have Nick from VanCan. I've been stealing content from him as long as I've been subscribing. He is a way better rider than all of us. So think of questions for him. But what I figured out is hold him for a little bit. Hold him until about the third part. The whole idea here is basically what we want to do is subscribe. It's well worth his subscription. He is a very, very good YouTuber. I think he could be a successful YouTuber in a lot of different subjects besides just mountain biking, but that's what his chosen vocation is. Also, in the description is Nick's Patreon. If you've part of the show, you've seen I've done a 180 on that. I think it's well worth it to follow these guys. It makes it possible for these guys to do this. I don't even know what else to say other than, Nick, could you introduce yourself?
Well, I think you've done a pretty good job. I don't know what else I'd add to that. My name's Nick, live in Vancouver, ride mountain bikes a lot, sometimes BMX, and that's about it, really. That's 99%
Where'd you get your
of what
start?
I do. So back in my hometown, Kenora, Ontario, the first time I ever went riding was when I was at a friend's house and he kind of mountain biked and he was like, "Oh, let's go for a ride." I didn't really know what that meant. And I borrowed like his mom's Norco Mountaineer or something like that. And he showed me like, this is a trail. And we went for a ride and he showed me the biggest thing was jumping off a curb. He's like, "Oh, you pull up the front wheel and you jump off the curb."
And how old were you?
13-ish, and that like blew my mind, like jumping off a curb. And then from there, I mostly just ended up riding street. So I bought, I had CCM for a while, and then eventually ended up getting a rock hopper, like a 2007, I think it was, specialized rock hopper.
Solid bike. Yeah, very solid bike.
But I only used it for riding street. So I did mullet way back then. So I had 26-inch in the front, 24-inch in the back, and just a back brake, and I would just ride street with it until I was about 15. And then that's when I bought a BMX, rode BMX for the next 15 years.
I keep hearing this theme over and over again. Do you think that mountain bikers should get like a dirt jumper or a BMX type of bike to progress?
Oh, yeah. I think, especially if you're stuck, like if you're finding that you're going out on your usual rides and you're not jumping any better, you're not bunny hopping any better, and you don't know what to do next. Maybe you're a little frustrated or bored with like trying, to like, you don't want it to feel like training, right? Like you want to improve, but you don't want it to feel like going to the gym. You just want to have fun with it for the most part. And a good way to get better is to get, say, a dirt jumper and go to the skate park, because there's a whole set of skills that you're going to get that you don't ride a quarter pipe on the trail.
I see you on IG a lot. You post a lot of IG of indoor stuff and park stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of the time are you doing that?
Not very often. In the winter, I've been going maybe once a week to Air Rec Center, the indoor park in Maple Ridge. But it's a 45-minute drive. And, it's winter, it's dark, it's cold. Sometimes you're just not in the mood to go ride. But I try to get out like once a week and at least like maintain my skill level on BMX.
What's it cost to go to one of those places?
So I have a year membership, and it's $37.50 a month, which is what it costs there to go. Say if you didn't have a membership, it's $37 just to go the once. Or you can sign up for a year and pay the $37 a month and just go as many times as you want. It's actually a really good deal.
Oh, 37 Canadian, that's like $5 American.
Yeah, it's a deal. It's so like, I can't believe that's all they charge. But yeah, it's awesome.
That's awesome. Let me get into these questions.
All right.
What kind of mountain bikes or bikes do you have now?
Well, I have a BMX that I've had since I moved here. I built it up right before I moved here. But that's in BMX you build up your bike basically from scratch. So it's a fit beacon with a bunch of fit parts. And what else do I have on it? Profile hubs, and I can't even remember the wheels I built them onto. Cinema, I think, is the brand. And then I have my 2018 2S CF. I don't think it's the Pro model. That's my downhill bike, the red one. And then I have my new 29er 2020 Specialized Enduro, which is now S-Works / Elite or whatever the model is that I actually bought.
The one that an orthopedic surgeon would buy.
Oh, yeah. I dropped as much money. I sold 2 bikes, and then that only covered a portion of the new bike. I went all out this time.
Yeah, you did. So let me ask you, you know how to work? Could you be a bike wrench?
Yeah, I was actually. I worked every summer at a bike shop in Kenora.
So you know what you're doing. You could repack bearings. You can.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at you go.
Not that I want to do it.
Do you do much of that in your channel? I mean, I see you do a little bit, but like I'm doing an unboxing tomorrow.
I haven't done too much about bike maintenance or anything like that. I probably could. I don't necessarily do everything 100% correctly. So I wouldn't want to make a video, say, about, changing the oil in your lowers and not follow exactly the recommended steps, say, for Fox or RockShox. Sometimes I kind of wing it and kind of maybe eyeball things here and there. So that's why I kind of stayed away. I don't want to give anyone any bad habits or pass on any of my bad habits.
Have you ever regretted selling a mountain bike? Because I know you had a bunch of poopy experience with your YT, right?
No, it wasn't the YT. It was an Inspired Arcade. So it was a trials bike, the same one that Ali Clarkson's model. He helped develop that bike. It's kind of like a BMX / trials bike.
That pink one he has?
Yeah, he's got a lot of bikes now, so maybe.
He does. He's a nice kid.
Yeah.
He'll be on here soon.
He on that Inspired Arcade, he had built the wheels and signed it underneath. So like 5 years ago when I had this bike, I had the wheels built by Ali, and then now it's funny, where we kind of chat a bit all these years later. But that bike, I kind of regret selling it. At the time, I really needed the money to move here and go to university. But it's a really fun bike, and I wouldn't mind having one now because it's really fun to play around on and good to build up your skills.
I thought that was really interesting. I was chatting with Ollie about grinding your rims.
Yeah, I've done that.
I didn't even know that's a thing, huh? Because you got to stop on a trials bike.
Yeah, if you have rim brakes, they'll run hydraulic rim brakes. So company Magura, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar probably more with their disc brakes, but they make a hydraulic. Actually, I'm not sure if they still do, but I'm pretty sure they do. They make a hydraulic rim brake. And then to make it really grab, you can grind down your rim. Or some people, I remember, I don't know if they still do this, but back in the day when I was kind of interested in trials, I know they would take like tar and tar up the rim to make it really sticky. Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Who are your sponsors, by the way?
No sponsors. I'm an ambassador for a local shop.
Ambassadors. Yeah, I misspoke. Because I don't have sponsors either. I have
ambassadorships, something.
Yeah, I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, it's not a sponsorship, but yeah, the local shop Kinetic Cycles does help me out, and yeah, that's the only sort of official one. And then yeah, I was a Tasco ambassador last year, but now that I'm working with a shop, basically all the products they carry, they help me out with.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a hand up guy because they give me hand up gloves.
Right.
Thank you, hand up.
Yeah.
Are 26-inch wheels dead?
For trail riding, probably. I mean, you still like any dirt jumper. Like if I was going to buy a dirt jumper, I definitely wouldn't buy a 27.5. So yeah, any dirt jumper or slope style bike is going to be 26 or 24 inch.
Come on. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, for trail riding. For trail riding, I don't see them moving back. I know Josh and a lot of people that we all chat with are really sold on 29ers. And I mean, I own probably like debatably the best 29er you can get. Everyone really loves the Enduro, everyone that rides it.
I would say the best one is the Yeti SB100.
Yeah, could be. But I at least have a debatably extremely good 29er. And I don't know that I would buy another one. Like next year when I go to buy a 29er, I don't, or buy a new bike, I don't know if I'll get a 29er. Actually, might go back to 27.5. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Why?
I find that the advantage, like the going fast and plowing that I get from being on a 29er just doesn't outweigh how much harder it is to turn and jump and jib around. And
that much.
Yeah. Like the improvements you see from being a plow truck, maybe you're 10% better, but you're 15% worse at turning and jumping and bunny hopping. That's
Josh is. We both love him. He's great, but he is the 29-inch evangelist.
Oh, I know.
Well, you ride with him a lot, right?
Not a lot, not yet. But
okay.
Well, quite a few times we've been out riding, and yeah, we've had a chat. So I was riding. I haven't ridden with him with my new bike yet. So at the time I was riding with him, I always had my 27.5, and so I didn't know.
All that shit he told me about you is untrue. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. Depends what he told you.
Are you a gearhead?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. The short answer, yes.
Because here's where we can argue. Tell me why. Because my thing about being a gearhead is there's a lot of cool gear. I was looking at stuff in my local shop the other day, and I'm like, that's the coolest hub I've ever seen. That'll look cool on my bike. And for the average rider like me, I will never appreciate its performance.
Yeah, so my bike is definitely a lot better than I am. Like, I'm holding it back rather than vice versa. But let's say, so hubs, I like a loud hub. I like lots of engagements. I really don't like when you go to pedal and there's a gap there, like especially on any sort of technical climb. That really drives me nuts. So that's why I have fancy hubs. And I also like cheap hubs. I find like they wear down, they get play in them. I beat them up so fast.
Come on.
Yeah.
You're an inside guy. Talk to the 90% of people like me that have you could have a blind test with me and go, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, it depends which part we're talking about. So say like
a hub. Say a hub.
Okay, we can stick on hubs.
No. Do what you want to do. This is your hour. Your half hour.
Hubs is probably the most, at least one of the most obvious ones. Like, for engagement, like when you have like a terrible hub that has huge gaps in between each of the pawls engaging, and you're doing a technical climb or you're doing anything kind of sketchy, that can really throw you off where, you kind of jumps a bit. So that's probably the first reason it just so happens that these hubs are expensive and fancy too, but I want good engagement. And then I just like loud hubs.
I do too.
Yeah.
I love them.
Loud hubs are expensive. It's just, you got to pay for it for some reason. There's not too many cheap loud hubs. It seems to come with the good engagement.
Look at this guy, Maui Noka Oi. You know what Noka Oi means?
I do not.
It means awesome in Hawaiian.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. Let's say you're a mountain bike company. What's your company's name?
Well, my friend and I have always talked about owning maybe a shop, and I think we'll just use the same name. We would probably go with something like Black Metal Bikes, maybe something which sounds kind of generic, but I think we'd probably just go with that.
Like VanCan is probably one of the best names for a mountain bike YouTuber. I mean, that's a really, really good one. Do people just say that to you? Hey, VanCan.
They do, yeah. Yeah. Choosing a name is just so, you never know. Like, it's definitely cringy to hear, like, in that it's like you came up with your own nickname, and you're telling people to call you, like, yeah, call me big guy, from now on, or something.
Call me Spike or Tiger.
Yeah. And it almost feels like that you're kind of cringing a bit at the idea of, your own nickname. But yeah, I don't mind it. It's, Vancouver, Canada, shortened, and it rhymes, and yeah, I'm just gonna stick with it.
I'm a big fan of Cobra Kyle.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
That is a cool one.
Yeah.
Always very cool. And if you're out there, go subscribe to Cobra Kyle. Cobra Kyle's there he is. He's got a really wry sense of humor. What kind of bikes do you make as your company?
I mean, I would probably just make the kind of bike that I want, which would
enduro.
Yeah, like probably just a
gravel grinder.
No. It would just be a long travel enduro that would be set up to basically just get you up the hill. Not the fastest, but it would be focused 99% on descending. Probably something pretty similar to like the Rocky Mountain Slayer this year. Like,
do you have any interest in any other kind of cycling, like gravel grinding, by the way?
If I had more time, like if I could just go out and ride. So right now I'd say it's like mountain biking is number one. Then I would go do more BMXing, and then I'd probably do some trials. And then after that, maybe I'd get into road riding or gravel riding. But I don't have enough time to go ride BMX. I can't imagine trying to pick up another discipline.
I hear you. What's your worst mountain biking injury?
I crashed in Whistler pretty bad. There's a place when you're coming down the Garbanzo zone called Oakley Island. Basically, it's a big hip on the left and then a bunch of little step ups in the middle. It was our first lap. I didn't want to hit the big hip because I was like, oh, I'm warming up. I don't want to get hurt. So I went full speed at this step up, which isn't a big step up, but they're not built that great. And I got bucked and I went over the handlebars going super fast. And I don't know exactly what I did to my shoulder. It didn't break, but basically in the x-ray, you could kind of see there was like 3 bones. And on the one side, they were all compressed together. And they're like, oh yeah, that's your problem. And then I just had to wait it out and let them get back to normal. But that was,
I'm glad that happened to you and not to me. I really am. I've done my shoulder surgery. I'm done with that.
Yep.
Will you ever own an emtb?
I mean, if I could afford one, I'd have one right now.
But you will afford one. I mean, in 4 years. Hey, wait a minute. I'm talking to a person with an S-Works. You could buy 4 emtbs with an S-Works.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you see yourself owning one day?
Yeah. It would be nice to have. Right now, I'd use it for kind of when I'm having a bit of a rest day. Like, say if I'd done a bunch of big rides that week, then I still want to go ride, but I can't grind up a pretty big hill. It's good. It'd be nice just to hop on the e-bike and do kind of, 20% of the work I'd have to do on the climb and still be able to do a good descent. So yeah,
foreshadowing. I'm unboxing an emtb tomorrow.
Oh.
All right. Let me remind you, this podcast is all about talking to really, really good YouTubers. And Nick is definitely one. You really need to check out his channel, subscribe. Also, his Patreon, Totally worth it. Golly, what I'm finding out about Instagram is I mute so many people because they simply please 12 IGs a day is not acceptable. And what I look for is interesting and just consistent. And Nick's got that too. So give that a look on Nick's channel. Now, let me ask you the next set of questions. And all you out there, start thinking about questions for Nick. What are you not very good at?
I'd say the biggest thing that I'm working on right now is just eating a normal, appropriate amount of calories. So I would say I'm not good at dieting. Let's put it that way.
You eat too much or too little?
Oh, way too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
That a boy.
I love food. Love it.
Tell,
So
tell me something that you think is true that almost nobody agrees with you.
okay, I wrote this one down because I had to really think about it. I thought about this one for a while, and I think most people would disagree with me. But let's find out. I think we should teach way more science and math, basically throughout all of our education, like K to 12. We should way more science and math than we do now. They're kind of doing it with computer science, but yeah, we do a lot of other stuff that just, throw that out. More math.
No, I agree. I actually go a little further than you do. My thing is, you should not teach a subject at all, whether it's mathematics, science, social studies, until you have an acceptable reading. Like there's no reason to teach anything unless you have a kid that can read really well. And so even if it takes to the second, third, fourth grade, get that reading and then start teaching from there. But that's a great answer. You're if you're a superhero, what's your name?
Oh, did we see this one? I don't remember seeing this one on the list. I'm gonna have to think about it right now.
Pre-production, Nick.
I didn't see this on the list I was sent. Superhero, what's my name? See, the naming thing is always the hardest part.
Super Nick is not
not acceptable.
No, you could do that, but you're not going to impress anyone with Super Nick.
I mean, I'd have to just go with VanCan and just gotta, hype up the channel any way I can.
That a boy. What's your power?
One power. I think, I always thought Wolverine's power was pretty cool, just to be able to heal and basically live an insane amount of time. Well, not so much the spikes in the hands, just his he could heal and then he could just live. He's basically invincible. He wasn't immortal, but he could live. I can't remember how many years he ended up living, but
yeah, but Deadpool can do that too.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Deadpool's powers, I guess, is that a slightly better version of Wolverine? Maybe a sassy Wolverine. Yeah. Either okay. Well, I guess I don't know enough about comics and superpowers. I'm sure someone's going to be furious with me that I can't tell the difference. But whichever one of those two is the better version of healing.
What do you think, or excuse me, what do you wish you'd known before you started out on YouTube?
Probably that it needs to be more about what you're doing. It's YouTube and not, I'm not, say, a good enough rider that my riding is so interesting that people would tune in every week to see it. But I think if you give it context in how you're improving, what you're trying, where you're going, that it just makes the story.
Are you willing to do that? Because I find myself not willing to do that. We all live private lives, and
I share, most things on my channel right now. Probably just because all I do is pretty much ride and go to school right now. that it's really easy. It just is like that's the two things I do. I don't have a family, anything really. I've got the girlfriend and a fur baby, but the dog.
Let
just
me
helps
ask you a
with
question
Instagram.
then. So you're out of school, you get your job. Does your channel change?
Probably, hopefully it gets better, but content wise, probably not. I've got some few ideas that I'd like to do, but yeah, if I could share, if people were interested about my job and it somehow overlapped with the channel, I would talk about that. But
what does it take for you to go full time? What's your number? Do you know the number?
Yeah, so I think it would be, so if I could gross, say, like, if I was grossing, say, 50,000 Canadian a year, that would be like, it would be super obvious. I would just go full time. I don't know. I wouldn't say that's the minimum, but around there. So that works out to, I think, like 4,200 Canadian a month.
Let me ask you a better question. A better question. So let's say you could. There's some number.
Right.
Is full-time YouTube a better job than what you've trained to do?
That depends. It could be right now. See, I just don't know because I haven't done YouTube really full time to the point where I really need to make a living from it. There's probably a lot more, planning I should be doing, a lot more stuff behind the scenes, maybe trying to get sponsors, a lot of emails that I don't do right now because I don't have to. That might be very annoying, but I don't know yet. Whereas I kind of know what I'm getting into with engineering right now. I know what a job would be like. And if you have a good crew, you have a good boss, you can do some pretty interesting stuff. And luckily it pays pretty well. And I don't know. The answer is I really don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What are you curious about right now? It has nothing to do with mountain biking, or it does. It's
all right. I wrote this one down. So the thing I'm most curious about right now is, why doesn't my project work for school? That's like my number one curiosity. But most things, every now and then I start going down some rabbit hole in some field of science. And just, that's like where most of my curiosity is placed. I don't follow riding as much in like professional, like I don't follow racing or anything like that. But I do watch a lot of engineering YouTube, a lot of people who make stuff, a lot of people who talk about science and things like that.
Who's your favorite non-YouTube or non-mountain bike YouTuber? Like Rover? Do you watch Rover?
No, I don't know who that is. Let me see here. So
Mark Rover?
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
5.5 million subscribers.
That sounds familiar. Is he the guy who did the he was the games? Like he did like the statistics of games at like fairs and stuff like that, and he showed how they're all rigged against you. Is that guy?
Probably, and he's pals with Smarter Every Day.
That sounds like, yeah. So yeah, that kind of stuff sometimes with him, but I like see, I'm gonna screw it up. 3 brown, 2 blue. For being a channel I really like, I always screw up which number is which. Let me see here. Is it 3 brown, 2 blue? The pressure is on. 3. It's 3 brown, 1 blue is called the channel. And I can't remember what he did professionally, but he makes these like animated science and math videos that are really well explained, and they're not like introductory level ideas or concepts. He'll talk about like stuff you'll see in upper year mathematics courses and graduate level courses.
Wow.
And I have a degree in a science field, and a lot of these videos I'll have to watch multiple times, and they're so well done that you do get a lot of information out of them. But
who do you fanboy for mountain biking besides me?
Uh, Pretty much anyone I haven't met yet. See, now I've met most people. I mean, I haven't spent too much time with Seth. I ran into him at the bike park. So that was cool just to run into him. Before I knew Brian, that was cool. When I first met him, I was like, "Whoa, here's a guy who's actually
he's a nice kid. He's a good guy.
yeah. Brian, yeah, Brian, just the nicest human being. It always bothers me when people really like say grind his gears about his YouTube channel because like he's one of the nicest people I know, and you know, if they knew him, there's no way they would give him a hard time like they are on the internet.
He's like Phil Kometz. Phil Kometz is the sweetest dude you'll ever meet, and like you, very generous. What have you failed at?
Yeah, well, the most probably obvious one is school. So this story that my parents always like telling, especially they're teachers, so they'll tell this to kids that are having a hard time in school. But when I was in grade 10, my teacher basically told me, like, you're too dumb. Like, you should probably just drop down into the lower level classes and, you know, prepare for your job doing something terrible, you know. And my parents
Did you say this?
No, I believed her because at the time especially when you're in high school, you know, you see your teachers and adults as they seem to know something you don't, or you know, there's so much experience, they're this authority figure, and you kind of just believe them in whatever they're saying. So I didn't know that she wasn't right, but she was pretty convincing at the time. And then even when I went to university, so I was still chugging along, trying to make it. But even when I got to university, my first year, I failed like 2 or 3 courses, and then it took me a while, but I eventually got the hang of it, and then graduated, and now I'm in grad school.
That's awesome. What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Okay, I wrote this one down too.
And we're past a half hour. I don't want to. I've always said that I don't want to keep you for forever. I mean, Robert last night he could have gone. We could still be on tonight.
Yeah. Well, I got nowhere to go. You know, we're all
right.
trying to hang around the house.
I appreciate that, Nick.
Yeah. Okay. So, what question are we on? I wrote an answer to this one as well.
We said, what's the best piece of advice?
Yes. I think it's to stop caring what people think, like to stop placing so much weight on what someone else thinks of what you're doing. And I tell this to people now when they're thinking about starting YouTube, because anytime I go up to someone who's got something interesting going on, and I say, you should be sharing this. And they're always kind of worried about, like, oh, someone's going to make fun of me. You know, my friends will think I'm dumb for talking to a camera. But it's like, well, if you want to do it, then you should. And who cares, like, what your so-called friends are saying, or if anyone's making fun of you, if that's what you want to do. So that's a good piece of advice I've gotten, but not that I totally listen to it all the time. I still struggle with you know.
Do comments bother you now and then?
Sometimes it depends, like how, like if someone just says like you suck, and it just is like a generic comment, those are pretty easy to ignore. Every now and then someone will say something really strange, that, you know, they say like I did something really, you know, mean to them or something, like I ignored them on the trail, or I was really rude. You know, when they said hi
I can see that. You seem like a really rude person.
Yeah, I could understand that maybe, as say on the trail, you know, I get really tired going up the hill, and if it's like our second lap, I might just say hi, and then I'm just so tired that I can't give my full energy, and maybe that comes off as a bit standoffish. But yeah, things like that every now and then, comment will get me kind of riled up. But for the most part, no. I also just don't get that many negative comments, so that helps.
What's the worst piece of advice?
Probably, I remember when I was in my undergrad, I was like, you know what? I kind of like computer science. I should transfer into that. And my parents were like, there's no jobs in computer science. It's a terrible piece of advice. You know, I'd be rolling around on my throne right now with all my money.
What gets you in the most trouble? What
Um,
personal trait gets you in the most trouble?
I think probably being too quiet. I thought these days I didn't think I was too quiet, but every now and then someone says they're surprised to hear me talk so much, which is crazy because uh, this is talking a lot to me. And 10 years ago, uh, yeah, even I realized I just didn't really like talking to people. I didn't like making conversation. If I didn't have something really important to say, I just wouldn't make small talk, and that would make people pretty uncomfortable. Even though I was totally fine just to sit in silence, stuff like that, or not speaking out. Maybe is a good one that comes from
Hmm.
that. Like if I wasn't, someone would do something, and I wouldn't say that I had a problem with it, or they shouldn't be doing that, or something like that.
All right, let me do this. Let's do this.
Hmm.
This is about Nick. It's about his channel. Um, I really want you. I don't get bad recommendations. So first of all, start putting question marks on the end of your sentence fragments out there if you want to ask Nick a question. Well worth. I don't know how long I've been subscribing to you. Long enough to know that you're a great writer and a great channel. Also in the description is Nick's Patreon, his IG, all the stuff in there, all of his socials. So, Nick, cake or pie?
Oh, definitely cake. A specific type of cake too.
All right, we're done. Thank you for coming, everybody.
the
Cake.
vanilla, the vanilla cake from Costco. You know that huge one that serves 48 people, but I just buy it for myself. Yeah, the vanilla Costco cake.
Oh my God,
You got
that's
to make
so
sure it's
brutal.
like the one that has like balloons or a sun on it, so it like there's a pile of icing like on top, like at least an inch thick. That's you got to get your money's worth.
What did your roommate think about that?
Well, I only have one roommate. It's my
I
girlfriend,
know.
and she,
I know that.
yeah, she's just as interested in the cake as I am. So we limit it to my birthday is when we get the huge cake.
Here's a question. One MTB. You know this kid?
Yep.
Nice channel. He's doing it. What's up with your crazy BMX skills?
Well, I've been riding for a long time. As far as BMXers go, like even locally, there's a lot of riders who are quite a bit better than me. But I've just been riding. Yeah, I switched to BMX when I was 15, and yeah, I just rode for 10, 13 years. Tried to ride as much as I could, and
Does your
yeah,
girlfriend ride?
not yet. I'm working on it. It's just every day I nag a little bit more.
All right. What was your biggest gripe? Trail POV asks this with your YT Capra. What's the biggest thing you noticed going to the enduro?
I think so. The rear end on the Capra was really short, and when you go fast, it was hard to keep it stable. So, like when we were racing the enduro and Whistler in the park, where you're actually just going Mach 10, it was kind of hard to keep control. But I really liked the Capra. I really don't have that many complaints about it. No water bottle cage now. Now that I have the enduro and I have like the swap box and the tool and the water bottle cage, I don't think I can go back to not having a water bottle cage. And then the swap box too is just so handy. I have a jacket that I keep in there. Like when we're out for a ride and I'm like, oh, I'm cold. And I whip out a jacket from my bike and they're like, oh, had a whole jacket in there and I'll keep whatever else I need. I love just riding, no bag or anything.
Simon asked this. Are you a hardtail fan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd really like to get, say, like the Norco Torrent. I think that bike looks like a lot of fun. And the goal is, maybe I'll be able to get a hardtail. And luckily, my girlfriend and I are the same height. So we might get a bike to share. So I'll get a bike that I want. It'll be her bike, but, maybe I'll ride it. So maybe something like a Norco Torrent for her, but I'll be trying to make some videos on it and stuff like that. One day,
Nice.
though. We'll see.
Nice. All right. What's your favorite word?
Okay, I wrote this one down. I wrote this one down too.
That should be on top of your head.
Yeah.
Top of mind.
Yeah. My favorite word, this is my favorite word, but I don't use it that often, which sounds maybe counterintuitive. But I had a BMXer friend back in Kenora, who used to always say greasy, kind of like greasy, but with a Z. And I always really liked it. And
Greasy.
yeah, just anytime it's one of those words that just the definition is all in how you say it in the context. It can mean whatever you want it to mean. And that's it. Yeah.
What's your favorite curse word?
Okay, I got this one too. So it's the C word that's popular in across the pond and in
That's so funny.
Australia.
Like I'm willing to drop the F-bomb, but not that. I don't know why we have different cultures that are willing to say. I've said that 3 times in my lifetime, but the F-bomb is part of my vernacular.
You just got to hang out with more Australians.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Well, this one is pretty close to what I do, I guess, already. But I was going to become a teacher, which I guess I might do in some form. But
I was going to ask you that. Are you going to do what I do?
I'm looking into it. So when I graduate, I might take a look at one of the colleges here and see about giving lectures. So I guess I technically I'm a teaching assistant right now, but I don't really teach a class. But I'd like to. Yeah.
Okay, let me get to these because they will you jump on the bandwagon? I don't know what the bandwagon is, and go on a cross country. Oh, okay. Oh, like a Paul the Punter, BKXC, Alexander. Will that happen? Will you come to my house in Oregon and ride my track? That's all I care about.
Yeah, I'd really like to do that. Yeah, getting out and especially getting out across the country is that's a big commitment. It's a lot of time off work and things like that. Let's say if we owned a house and we could rent it out and there was sort of this stability that we could come back to, I think I could convince my girlfriend to buy a van and just cruise around and do mountain biking.
It's got to take a lot of planning. Like Eric and Yuka must plan a year in advance at least. What kind of camera do you use the most?
The most is the GoPro, the Hero 8 Black. I definitely use that by far the most.
I'm a 7 man myself.
Yeah, the jump from 7 to 8 was not that much.
Negligible.
Yeah, like the Hyper Smooth is a little better and a little wider, but not a big deal. I could definitely just use the 7 still, but here we are. We got the 8.
Well, Nick, you have been awesome. Very, very much so. I wish I was able to argue with you a lot more, but I think we agreed on too many things.
No.
But I certainly appreciate you coming on. It's a big deal. And once again, this is well worth the subscription to VanCan. And not only is it a great channel, this guy can ride, and you'll see that in a big way. Take a look at Nick's Patreon. Take a look at Nick's Discord. Take a deep dive. Well worth it. Oh, geez. Last question. How many times do you bring your bike to work? Atop Simon Fraser?
Not very often.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of room up there in our labs and stuff. So,
by the way, do we get to see the puppy?
I don't know where he is right now. I think he's out still. So I think I'm just home alone here.
All right.
Yeah. So
Well,
I'll have to go to Instagram for that.
Nick, thanks so much. I appreciate it in a huge way. And all you guys coming by and asking good questions. And thanks and good night.
Thanks, Matt.